Like, my exaggeration there, it's worse than that.
So,
You're alive.
awesome.
We're alive. Hey, we're talking about Bob Dylan and Christmas music. Welcome to Facebook Live.
Those are things that don't go together.
Yeah. One of these things is not like the
I
other.
actually have a Do our
mics have to be up for Facebook Live to hear us?
Yes, that's true.
Oh, hey. Hey, Facebook Live, what up? We're talking about Bob Dylan and Christmas music before we get started here, so. So why
I
am
have
I
a
not
Joe
seeing?
Pass album called Six String Santa, and it's
Ooh.
Joe Pass just killing it on Christmas.
Dude, I have
music.
to borrow
It's
that.
So good.
Did you have it on vinyl or CD?
No, I have it on CD.
Dude, I would love to borrow that so I can rip it.
So good.
Oh,
His
I
version
love
of,
that. He's amazing.
God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. It's all modal and dark and awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
loving it, loving it, loving it. So I don't see the Facebook Live thing, do you? Oh, wait, just now.
Just now, we're gonna
Share.
this out, smoking and toasting.
Share now public. I think when you share something, it should automatically start with the heading, "Hey, bitches." It's been too long since we've done a show, buddy.
Right? I feel like it's been a while.
I know. I don't know what I'm doing here. Ready when you guys are?
All right, I'm sharing mine out now. Hey,
Welcome,
all
Facebook
of
Live,
you
what up?
Watching us on Facebook, share this. We're trying to be in
Yes.
everyone's face.
This is a big episode because we have Rocky Patel on the show.
Now, it will be a little segmented. This is news for just the Facebook people. It'll be a little segmented because since we have previously recorded a couple of our segments on here, you won't be able to see those Facebook Live. But what you will be able to do is go look at them on YouTube as soon as we have those posted. We are actually uploading those right now, so we'll talk about it as if you guys have seen it. But we're going to go ahead and post those on YouTube. You'll have to go look at it there.
And the Rocky interview, I've lost me.
The Rocky Patel interview.
The Rocky Patel interview is totally worth a look at the.
What a cool guy.
He
too.
is. He's totally cool. And I'll
Actually,
tell
the whole
Rocky's stories.
family, because Rocky and Nimish.
Rocky and Nimish and Nish. And
yeah.
we're hoping to get Nimish on the show here very soon as
Pretty
well.
excited, yeah, because he's going to be doing that thing downtown on 14th, I think it is.
Which you and I will both be smoking at. But
Yes.
we're already doing the show. We haven't started the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Smoking and Toasting, show number 67. I'm ready when the producers are.
Those crazy producers. Masters of awkward silence.
Well. Welcome, my friends, to this fine radio program called Smoking and Toasting. This program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It is Smoking and Toasting number 67, and we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Road trip coming in January, and I'm hoping that we can put together our road trip in January so that we can broadcast live.
I'm all over that.
B&B Fort
That sounds
Worth.
so fun.
Really stoked about it. So welcome to you guys, and welcome to my good friend and partner, Mr. Ian Barry.
What's happening?
How are you?
Man, I feel like I miss you. I haven't seen you since, Vegas.
Oh, wait, Vegas? Yeah. Well, we were just probably too inebriated.
I would
for the
tell you guys
whole
about
thing.
Vegas, but what happens in Vegas? Well, no,
Yeah.
actually, we brought some video back with us.
We actually did. And we're very excited. This is going to be, I think, one of the most exciting shows that we've ever done because we have, I think, one of the biggest personalities in the cigar field in the world. And he's on the show today. We recorded the interview in Vegas, and we'll be sharing it with you. We were at the Big Smoke and got to sit down and talk cigars and tobacco with Rocky Patel.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Big Smoke is the biggest cigar convention there is.
Yes.
It's
the big
put
one.
on by Cigar Aficionado magazine,
And
they do it every year.
several big smokes, but
Right,
the
right.
Vegas one, which is the one we went
That's
to,
the big,
it's
big
the big one. Yeah,
Right, right.
It's the mama.
And what a good time that was. And I explained to a few friends of mine when I got back there, were like, "How was Vegas?" I was like, "We got an interview with Rocky Patel," and they're like, "Who's Rocky Patel?"
Yeah,
I'm
you,
like,
you
"Well,
tell
let
they're
me-
not cigar people. Right?
Let me
Yeah.
put it this way: in the world of cigars, that's kind of like getting an Eddie Van Halen interview.
Yeah, that's a really good way
You
to
know,
say it. Yeah,
it's really
Yeah.
kind of like that. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited about that.
It's like, kind of like we're with Guitar Player Magazine and got the Eddie Van Halen.
That's right,
interview.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Rocky is, and it's interesting because let me explain the way the Big Smoke kind of works. You basically, it's a very expensive ticket. First of all, it's not cheap. You
Nope,
got to get to
not at all.
Vegas, and then you got to pay for your rooms and all that stuff. But to get into the event itself, you can buy either tickets for one night or two. We only we're in for one, but you walk into this room. They hand you a Cigar Aficionado bag and a booklet of coupons, and the room is like a convention center room with all these booths set up, and you go from booth to booth, tear a coupon out of your booklet at each one, hand it to, let's say, the
Aging room
cigar company, and they give you an aging room cigar, and or maybe two. Some of them one, most of them one. Some of them gave you two, and then there's also various whiskeys and other spirits around, and there you don't even have to give them a coupon. They just come let you sample. But everybody's got a booth, and they've got all the sort of luminaries of the cigar field there. That said, Rocky Patel was the rock star of that room.
Yes.
And so that's why we were excited to get him on there. Plus, I've actually met Rocky before. Not that he would remember me, because it was a long time ago, but I'll tell that story again. I've told it before on the show, but I'll tell it again a little bit after we do the Rocky interview. I maintained my composure well enough not to recite it when we had him on for the interview.
So
I almost did that. Remember that time that like I met you and it was
was cool.
We had cigars. That's cool.
That was cool.
But
there was also so you end up going down these rows of booths, right? And it's all these different companies, but strategically placed within these rows of cigar booths were liquor booths.
Yes.
It was a beautiful thing, and there's
lots of whiskeys we hadn't tried before.
Right,
Roms.
there was no you don't have to pay your tip. It's just there. You just here. Thank you.
Well,
would you like to try this? Yes.
Trust me, you've paid.
Well, you don't pay. You don't pay at the time. You pay before.
Right.
But I did a little bit of math.
Food as well. Yes.
I did a little bit of math. And even after I smoked a few cigars, I came home with 43 cigars.
Okay.
All right, do the math.
From the various booths.
From all the various booths. I came home with a humidor bag. By the way, Bovita was brilliant. Bovita makes those humidor packets, the moisture packets.
Right, that go in your humidor. And
to humidify it to the proper moisture and everything like that. Well, their giveaway was a giant humidor bag with the packet in there, so you could bring all your swag home.
You just put all your cigars in
and you don't have to worry about the humidification or anything like that.
Good to go. Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I counted my cigars, 43 cigars.
Okay.
If you assume $10 per cigar,
do
the math. That's a lot of money worth of cigars.
Well, you're right, and that doesn't even include the fact that you were fed.
Yes,
and there were plenty
was food,
of drinks.
There was all that. So if you take out the price of the cigars versus the price of the ticket, it might have been almost reasonable. But it sure was a good time.
It sure was a good time. And I've been to a number of different events. I will say, as an investment in cigars, the Wingding is a better bang for your buck, because the Wingding tickets are a lot cheaper. We're talking about the Stogie's Wingding in Houston. The Wingding's tickets are a lot cheaper, but you get just as big a bag of cigars to take home with you. They don't do the coupon at the booth thing. There are booths there, and you can walk around and chat with the different cigar people and so. But you get your bag of cigars right at the beginning.
Well, the other amazing thing there too is they didn't have. Most places didn't have, you go to a lot of these beer conventions and all these other things. Most places have just some random catering company people up there going, here's some of this. Here's some of this. They didn't have it that way. These were the actual employees, the actual blenders, the actual owners of the company.
The various whiskeys and rums and whatever,
And cigars.
And cigars,
yes. I mean, you got to talk to the actual people.
I remember
it was amazing.
we would go up to the booths, and I would be, of course, trading my ticket for cigar. Yeah, I got to take care of business here. And Ian would say to the person, so are you affiliated with?
Yes.
19 times out of 20, the answer was
90%
yes.
of the time
then you would meet this person. Oftentimes, I mean, we met guys that were the rollers. We have lined up a number of great guests for the future on the show. So
we did a lot of networking for future shows. We're going to have a lot of great cigar guests on.
And we also had fun just being in Vegas, just being in a different environment. We are going to play a segment back for you that we recorded in the Mirage in the Center Bar.
Yes.
And
our commando segment is what you call it.
Yes, exactly. In that segment, we will taste a local Las Vegas whiskey that we've never seen outside of Vegas
and
before.
It was good.
And it was delicious. And we'll also taste a beer that our friends at the Wasatch Brewery, which is in Park City, Utah, make exclusively for the Mirage.
That was pretty cool,
We
too.
first tried this beer. The first day we got there, we were starving, so we went to this little burger place that was inside the Mirage. I think LTD Burger or something like that.
yeah.
And that beer was on the menu, and we tried it and was like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
So we noticed on the menu that they said they did it especially for the Mirage, and apparently it was available in all the bars, or at least most of the bars and restaurants that were in the Mirage. So we sampled that, and it's actually a brown ale, but it's called Amber's Ale. I went on the Wasatch website, and apparently Amber is one of the brewmasters at
there you
Wasatch.
go.
So there's Amber's.
That explains it.
So it's like Amber's brown ale.
So it's not an amber ale; it's actually Amber's Ale.
Amber's Ale, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was confusing because when it came out, it was this more. It looked like a Newcastle brown or something.
Yes.
Am I saying?
It was it was almost a reddish brown.
Yeah,
right.
And but as it turns out, I was expecting an amber ale, but as it turned out, it was just delicious.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about that.
And
what the
also, by
profile was.
sampled it over the weekend, we really actually tried to put a dent in their supply.
Yes, we did. I was like, I can't get this when I go home. I'll have another.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Absolutely. We also will taste a couple of beers on the show in the upcoming segments. The Brooklyn Defender IPA from Brooklyn Brewing Company, Brooklyn, New York. It is a beer they released specifically for the New York Comic-Con. So immediately the geek in me was like, buying it. And so we'll see how that tastes. And also, one that I have no idea what it's going to be like or about. But Lagunitas has released, they have a series that I just found out about. I hadn't heard of this. It's the 2017 One Hitter Series.
I don't know that
And
one.
this is an Eroica. Eroica, not erotica, but Eroica. And I have no idea. It doesn't say if it's an ale or a lager or whatever. So I have no idea what we're getting into with this Lagunitas. But this should be fun.
I'll have to look up that style in between segments.
All right, fair enough. We'll do that, and we'll also some interesting things going on in the world out there. Better Drinking Culture, which is an organization, wants to change the "Drink Responsibly" tagline that you hear on all the commercials, where it says, Anheuser-Busch, Houston, Texas, drink responsibly. They want to change that. They think they have a better idea.
I want to hear about
So we'll
that.
share that with you. Plus, Avery Brewing, wonderful craft brewery for years. Not a craft brewery anymore.
Oh, did they break the line?
They've sold 30% a minority ownership to another company for a cash infusion, and that means they can no longer be considered
they're
a craft
too
beer
big.
under the current guidelines. So we'll tell you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll tell you about that. Plus 5 brewers that you might not know but will soon, and just so much interesting stuff to talk about with Vegas and how we managed to
Vegas stories.
somehow survive. Oh, the trip down to Fremont Street, where I got the
Yeah.
largest Sam Adams I think I've ever had. Oh my God, it was amazing.
Well, when a guy asks you, do you want this size or do you want this size? Your eyes just kind of go big, they gloss over.
I'll
and you,
take that large. Yeah,
that
I'll
one.
take that large.
Yeah.
But then, like, you're drinking it for the rest of the night. It's like a schooner.
I
of
drank
Sam
3
Adams.
of them.
Well, okay.
I just want to say, though,
it was
there
that kind of a
there was a
trip.
large part of a trip. Of course, we didn't have to drive or anything like that. We Ubered everywhere. So there was a large part of that Vegas trip where I was walking at about a 45-degree tilt.
I have some.
I'm not
pictures
sure
of
whether
you.
it was forward or
I
sideways,
have some
but it
pictures
was,
of you like that. It was so good. We did a whole lot of interesting things. We went and had a drink at the Arturo Fuente,
Yes.
the Casa Fuente bar, which is in the shops at Caesar's Palace, which that place is awesome.
it is. Tiny place.
Tiny place, but
really
awesome.
cool.
And rockin', had great music playing. They just and it was so you got to understand it felt like every cigar smoker in the world descended upon Vegas, and they were
Oh, yeah.
all there at the same time. You'd walk into the Mirage Casino, and I mean, everybody at every table, every machine,
Everywhere.
was all smoking a great cigar. So it was a wonderful cigar aroma. If you're a cigar fan, it was a wonderful cigar aroma the whole time we were there. All right, coming up next, our first segment from Vegas, recorded in the Mirage, where we do some interesting tasting. And then coming up just a little bit later, interview with Rocky Patel at Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. It's Cruz and Ian, and we are now going to bring you a segment which we did live in Las Vegas from the Center Bar in the Mirage, and it was early enough in the day. We still had our wits about us. for the most part.
Mostly.
Yeah, and we sample some great stuff and talk about what a great time we're having and really try to get into some of the flavor and color of the New Orleans cigar and whiskey and beer scene. So here we go, live from Vegas on Smokin' and Toastin', brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth.
And welcome to Smokin' and Toastin'.
Yes, sir. We're live in Vegas. Ian just said, welcome to Smokin' and Toastin'. Because you said it that way, I don't know if they heard you. So,
welcome to Smokin' and Toastin'.
The mic's over here.
We have a little commando set up for our microphone and video right
But
now.
we love it. And Ian lighting his cigar. And what are you smoking there, my friend?
This is a cigar that I got yesterday at the event. This is a Nat, I believe this is going to be pronounced Cico, C-I-C-C-O. Let's see if I
Nat
can get
Cico, yeah.
that label up there.
There you go, yes. So we are live in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're at the Big Smoke. Yesterday was day one of the Big Smoke for you and I, and it was your first experience going to one of these, walking around to the tables and you handing them a little tiny slip of paper and they hand you cigars. What did you think of this arrangement?
I like this. I think every place should do this, where I just give you a slip of paper with a name on it, cigar comes back.
Yes.
Oh, wait, they do that with money, too.
Yeah, well, it's more of a green slip of paper,
It's a
but
green
yes.
slip of paper.
No, you're right. So yeah, we've had just an incredible time. We're lining up interviews with some really great cigar industry people, and we've had, of course, plenty of time to eat, drink, and smoke cigars. And so we thought we'd do a little of the drinking and smoking cigars here and tell you about what we're drinking and what we're smoking. So I have lit up one of these new aging room. It is called the F55M from Aging Room, and I'll show that to the.
That's a great looking cigar. That
I
box
gotta
press.
tell you, it's delicious. I'm only, as you can see, about a quarter of an inch in there.
Yeah.
This thing is fantastic.
I find it amusing that you picked the box press. Also, I picked the box press.
Well,
just because they feel great.
What's interesting is, having been there yesterday, done the exchange, now I have this wonderful bag of cigars in my hotel room.
It's ridiculous. I think I counted it up. There was 43 cigars.
Oh my God! See, there you go.
And the genius of the Bovita people were there, right? And the Bovita people had a giant bag, a humidor bag, with their Bovita elements. Now, these are little elements that you just buy. They're disposable.
And you use them in your humidor, yeah.
Use them in your humidor. They you can touch them. They can put them right next to cigars. It doesn't make any difference. And they keep it regulated exact humidity, and they're fantastic. Well, they're handing out a bag big enough to hold all the cigar swag. And so
And it's
now,
got the Bovita element in it.
so now it's in a humidor bag, and I don't have to worry about it being in Vegas, especially since it's so dry here. My lips chapped, I think, about 3 minutes after I got off the plane.
It's actually cool for Las Vegas. Not normally a word you would associate with this particular city, but it's actually a bit cool for Vegas right now.
It's a little chilly. It was beautiful today, though. It was mid-60s walking around, bright sunshine, and we went up and down the strip a bit, had a great time.
We're in the center bar at the Mirage, which is the casino and hotel in Vegas where the whole Big Smoke event is being held. And I don't know if you've gotten that little earworm for the Titanic song, but there's a Titanic slot machine right behind me. And when you hit a certain, a certain sequence on it, it starts playing the little flute solo from Titanic.
Gives you the Titanic theme. It's pretty awesome.
So, Ian, we chanced about this beer yesterday when we were having a burger at lunch. And first of all, it's outstanding. I thought we'd talk about it because it's from Wasatch, which is, those guys are from Utah.
Yes.
And they apparently do this brew specifically for the Mirage.
For the Mirage, right.
It's like it's called Amber's Ale, but it's not actually an amber ale, it's a red ale.
It's Amber's Ale, not
Amber
an
being
amber
a person,
ale.
yes. So tell me a little bit about what you're tasting in Amber's Red here.
So it's definitely, like you're looking at, it's definitely a red ale and not an amber ale. And it is delicious. It is smooth. It is creamy. It's the malt factor right up front on this.
Yes.
And just a great balance and a hop finish, which is exactly what you expect from Wasatch any given time. It's absolutely fantastic. And I enjoyed mine yesterday enough to have two.
Well, I will tell you this. I find one thing very disappointing about this particular Wasatch Ale and that's that I know I will not be able to buy it at home.
That is a little...
Yeah.
'Cause I would buy this. This would be a regular
Absolutely.
drinker for me.
This would be in my regular rotation, yes.
This is, it's got a hop profile towards the end of the flavor that's almost like a, it's almost like like not quite an IPA, but almost.
Yes. Well, I don't have any red ales in my regular rotation. I do enjoy them.
Right.
Every now and then I'll have one if I'm out at a bar or something, but I don't have any that I buy regularly. If I could get this at home, this would be in my regular rotation.
It'd be
like you said, it's got a great malt profile, little hoppiness, little tiny bit of hop bitterness on the back end, but not enough that it's interfering with the aging room cigar that I'm smoking. In fact, if anything, it's enhancing it very, very nicely.
Yeah, they're going pretty well together. I'm pretty excited about this. This has been a fantastic trip so far.
It really has. Now, it's not cheap, I will tell you, to come to the Big Smoke. It's not cheap, but it's the type of thing that if you're a cigar aficionado, no pun intended for the magazine, if you're somebody
to them, by the way,
for putting on such a great event. But if this is the type of thing you're into, this might be worth saving up for. Like I really believe that it's that good of an event.
Did you catch how many years in a row have they done the Big Smoke now?
Well, I went to my first Big Smoke actually in New York City. Yeah, in New York City, and that had to have been 12 or 15 years ago, maybe. I don't know if they even do the New York one anymore because of the smoking laws there. I know they regularly do Miami and Vegas, and Vegas is the big one. And there's all kinds of things. In fact, there was even a Drew Estate cigar luncheon today that we opted out of because the lines were too long.
Oh my God! Long.
Yes,
crazy. It was unbelievable. I mean, this hallway's got to be 25 feet wide, and it's packed from end to end for, I don't know, 40, 50 yards at least. Just crowded with people ready going into this luncheon. And I decided I was too hungry to wait for that. So we missed that one. But we also stayed in the casino and lost some money and had some cigars.
Yes, and you know what? When you're enjoying a cigar while you lose money, it makes it much more bearable.
Well, it's one of the nice things too is if you're sitting there and you're having a cigar, eventually someone's going to come up and say, "What would you like to drink?"
Right.
And you order it. And you just
Which is one of my favorite questions.
And it's complimentary.
Yes,
it's a beautiful thing.
It's one of my favorite questions.
Right.
Well, let me just say, if you are in Las Vegas, go to the Mirage at least to sit at the bar and order one of Amber's ales. It's Amber's ale. It's a red, and it is delicious. I recommend it highly, and I think that you should. It's worth making a trip to this specific location to try. I think it's that good
because it's a very good beer.
All right, so before we end the segment, Ian, let's talk a little bit about. I know you're relighting. Hopefully, no relight penalty. Let's talk a little bit about this whiskey. We were up at the bar earlier. We were there with your wife and discussing whiskeys, and we discovered this one is a Las Vegas local whiskey distillery. And I got to tell you,
my wife is adventurous with whiskey.
Yes.
And she likes to try, like if she's never seen it before, she hasn't seen the bottle, she is going to try it. She's going to, at some point in time, go, that looks interesting, let me try that. Now, most of the time it's a reasonable price, but every once in a while she'll pick something that's just like, how much for one?
Okay, what, honey? Yeah, right.
But that's okay. It's what it's about, adventurous.
Well, we'll post the photo of the bottle so that if you're ever in this area, you can find it. But it is, I'm trying to read the distilling company. It's Nevada H8C, I believe, distilling company, and it's Smoke Wagon, small batch, straight bourbon whiskey, Las Vegas. That's what it says on the label. And we'll post this photo because, again, one of the things we really wanted to do while we were here is make sure we try the local brews, the local whiskeys, and whatever we can do that are things that we might not have access to back home, which is Houston for us. So, Ian, you're the first to do the research. What do you think, my friend?
I think it's aptly named. It's interesting. The whiskey flavor right up front, the maltiness, and then it leads into this really nice smoky finish, but not smoky like Scotch.
Right.
Now it's a different kind of smoky. It's not peaty.
Because it's still got that sort of bourbon, almost rye taste on the finish.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of not quite campfire smoky, but not exactly barbecue smoky either.
Right, exactly.
So somewhere in between.
Yeah,
Like
but
nice blue smoke.
It does have, on the beginning, though, some really nice, very straightforward whiskey flavors. Just a little bit of that vanilla in the beginning, and then
the fruity flavors.
The fruity flavors, right.
Right up front.
And then, you're right, the smokehouse part of it comes on the finish, and it doesn't...
There's a little tanginess. Like, it's really
What
nice.
I like about it, though, is it kind of exists along with the fruity flavors, rather than kind of sweeping them out, you know?
Right, and goes well with the cigar. Like, they don't even cancel each other out. It's like, this seems to be, like, fitting directly around this, like they're made for each other.
I find that generally the fruitier tasting whiskeys work best with cigars for me.
Yeah.
And this is really nice because you're able to get some of the flavor of the smokiness without it sort of negating the pairing of the fruitiness in the cigar.
And the cigar's not mowing over the whiskey either. We actually tried this when my wife got a glass of it earlier and tried it without having a cigar on the palate. It's very much the same way. So the cigar is enhancing things, but it's not changing the flavor so dramatically that it interferes with it. It's quite enjoyable. So
we'll be trying to do some more of these cut-ins from Las Vegas as we enjoy ourselves, and that's really what the Big Smoke is about. More than anything, you looked around an enormous convention center room and saw a lot of happy guys in there enjoying their smokes and whiskeys. There was plenty of whiskey on hand. It was a beautiful night.
Let's talk about this. You walk in, you get a coupon book, and then you go up to the different booths and you hand them a coupon for their specific booth, and they give you a cigar. And then we sat and chatted with everyone we could. Most of these guys were actually representing the company and or the owners or the blenders of the company standing there talking to us. This is a big event. Like, they brought out the big guns for everybody. We got to, we spoke briefly with Rocky Patel and Nish Patel. We spoke with just tons of people.
The guys from Patron.
Yeah, the guys from Patron. Like, I've got a stack of cards that we need to go through and catch up with. So we're looking forward to maybe getting some future shows out of this. So,
well, I did want to mention one last thing before we end the segment, and that is that because, you know, the title of the show is Smokin' and Toastin', we should also mention that when you're in Las Vegas, the dispensaries are completely legal for recreational purposes. So if that's the kind of smoking you enjoy, there's another reason Vegas might be a good spot for you. And we certainly have some that are in our group that have hit the dispensary. So
have enjoyed themselves.
I'll tell you, this has been an experience that, while expensive, I feel like is actually worth the money, and so I recommend it highly. We'll be bringing you a lot of different interviews and some more, we hope, awesome on-the-spot reporting live from Las Vegas. This is Smokin' and Toastin'. Ian with some smokeouts. I say to you, my friend, cheers.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Welcome back to Smokin' and Toastin'. It's nice to have you on board with us as we do the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Rocky Patel interview coming up on this show. We're very excited about that. And we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. I enjoyed that segment very much, doing the segment that we did in Las Vegas. And it made me think we just have to go do segments like all over the country.
So I call that the commando segment because we didn't want to be so obvious that we were filming in the bar at the casino, because I think we didn't ask them about it, and I think they might get weird about it. But
I thought you called it the commando segment because I was not wearing underwear.
Well, fortunately, I don't think the camera shot was that.
No, it wasn't like on camera that way, but still, I totally misunderstood why you told me we were doing a commando segment, so I prepared accordingly.
So you came dressed accordingly.
I came dressed accordingly, and I didn't realize that you had other thoughts as to what that meant.
Noted.
So we kind of snuck in. It was
we kind of snuck in. So
clandestine.
the lighting's not that good. So if you watch the video on that, the lighting's not that good, but we are truly and honestly having a good time, and I think you can see that.
And
one of the cool things that happened is right after that segment, you guys all went off and did your own thing, and I sat there with my wife and smoked my cigar. I just was enjoying myself, and I sat there, and a gentleman came and sat down next to me, and my wife, being the PR person that she generally is, immediately starts talking to the people next to us. The guy looked a little bit familiar, so I may have actually seen him the evening before, but when I was introduced to him and I started chatting with him, I asked him, I said, "Are you affiliated with a cigar? Are you just here for the thing? Or are you affiliated with a cigar company?" He said, "Oh, I am affiliated with a cigar company." And I was like, "Oh, which one?" And he just pulls out of his pocket and hands me a cigar.
Ah, nice. I love when that happens.
And I looked at it. I said, actually, I just smoked one of these earlier today. It was a La Galera cigar.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the Maduro that I smoked earlier. I said, however, the band looks a little different. He goes, oh, you must have had the Maduro. And he introduced himself. His name was Jose Blanco. Mm-hmm. And he was an incredibly nice guy. We had a conversation for a minute, and I told him about the podcast and everything. I said, you know what? I'm going to review this cigar on the very next episode that we do. So I did smoke that cigar, saved that one until yesterday, and I did a bit of a review on it. This is the La Galera Habano El Lector. This is the 6x54 Toro. This was handed to me by the man himself.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. Ecuador Habano wrapper, Dominican binder, Ciderolo fillers, medium full strength. Man, what a great construction on this thing. Had a light, nutty, not quite chocolatey color to it, a little bit oily wrapper, leathery kind of feel to it. It was really nice. Pre-light smell was pleasant, very traditional tobacco, a little bit of earth to it. The pre-light draw, I used a clip on this, was effortless. Creamy, leather, earthy, traditional tobacco smells. The initial light was very spicy sharp, like immediately, bam, like hit you, sharp, spicy right off the top, and a little bit of leather. The first third of this, the spice turned into kind of a creamy, smooth, leathery with spice. It had really big smoke and a little undertone of a kind of nutty kind of flavor, or kind of a nutty flavor. The second third of this was creamy. It had a little more sweetness, a little more of the nutty undertones, but still very spicy. And the sweet was building. It had a great burn to it. Like, I had no problems with it at this point. The first third of the cigar held its ash the entire third of the cigar. I paired it with a St. Aug Christmas ale because I was sitting at a bar and they had that and it was delicious and it worked well. The spice in the Christmas ale and the spice in the cigar complemented each other. It was really nice. The third section of this was more creamy sweetness, builds the spice levels. Everything built up to this great, big, complex, full-flavored cigar at the very end. I enjoyed it. I smoked it down to about nothing.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think this was in the neighborhood of a $7 to $9 cigar. I give it a 6 on the price versus quality. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
You know what I've realized as you were talking about this cigar, and this is the way we normally talk about cigars, usually in the first segment when I'll ask you or you'll ask me, did you smoke anything interesting this week? And then we'll proceed to talk about something because in the studio, obviously, where we record when we're not on location, it's in a building where we can't smoke,
right.
so we can't actually do. But what I've noticed is we go into a great deal more detail when describing a cigar that we smoked previously than we do like in the segment that we just played.
Absolutely
where we're
true.
in the bar and we're able to smoke there because we're in Vegas and we're smoking it. Because I will tell you, that aging room cigar that I had in Vegas, that's one of the best cigars I've had like in the last several months.
Well,
I mean, it was unbelievably good. And I don't know if I got into the nuances of it. I think I'm trying to remember the segment now, but I think I just said things like, wow, this is really good, it's very complex, and it's working well with this Wasatch Amber's Ale.
Well, so let's break up a couple things. When we're actually smoking a cigar, we would have to keep interrupting our conversations with things about the cigar. So I guess that makes sense.
Oh, I'm getting a little nuttiness now.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess that does make sense. And
that is pretty pretentious. You're right.
And by
if
the
you
way,
were just hanging out with me and I was doing that, you'd be really freaking annoyed. Right?
Hashtag annoying.
Oh, I'm getting some creaminess.
Hashtag creaminess.
Shut up. But am I right? Yes, I am right. Yeah.
So I totally lost my train of thought.
So we're just talking about how when we do the cigar reviews live, we maybe don't go into as much detail as when we're reporting.
Me and you actually had a text conversation earlier this week about that Quattro because I smoked mine and was like blown away. It was fantastic. And we had, I was like, man, this thing is great. You're like, yeah, I really enjoyed mine. So yeah.
I was at the Blue October show when you texted me. You're like, this Quattro is amazing. And I was like, I'm sitting there watching the show. I'm like, dude, that's the best cigar I've had in a long time. So Aging Room Quattro, by the way, I just can't say enough about it.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, so what we'll do, this is my pledge to you, is we will try to do a little more detail when we're doing our live shows with cigars. Often when we're smoking live, we've also got a guest where maybe at B&B or we're at a smoke shop someplace, And so there's so much going on. I think we get caught up in what's going on the show or talking to the guests and don't really describe the cigar maybe in as much detail as we should.
Well, we could just make it a quick structure is to save a minute at the end of each segment and say, okay, here's where we're at with the cigar now.
Works for me.
You know, that might be an easy way to do it.
I like it. I like it. So we are going to do a little tasting here, and it's of a beer. Now, I am an IPA fan, as you know, if you've listened to the show, and I am also a complete and total nerd and comic book geek. So when I found out that Brooklyn Brewery in Brooklyn, New York, which is a good brewery, by the way, they make some great beers. When I found out that they had done an IPA specifically for New York Comic Con this year, I got all excited. And so I had to track one of these down, and I did, and it is the Brooklyn Defender Ale. You can see that it kind of looks like the old school Green Lantern a little bit there.
Yeah.
Did I just geek out horribly? But there we go. It's very comic book looking and very almost like Golden Age retro comic book looking.
You have geek skills.
I do. I have geek skills. And so anyway, I'm anxious to see what they came up with. Brooklyn's a good brewery. I don't doubt their prowess.
It's actually, just going from the smell, it's actually very interesting because there's a big malt profile in the smell that you don't get with a lot of IPAs.
Plus, I'm getting citrus on the nose. Which
Citrus,
you don't always get.
definitely citrus on it,
Malt
too.
and citrus, definitely.
So you got kind of a sweet hoppiness going on, which is,
Yes.
it's not
Yes.
sharp.
Those are the kinds of IPAs I have a tendency to like. You think about my favorite, which is the Lone Pint Yellow Rose. It's got some of that characteristic. Maybe not quite as citrusy as this, at least on the nose.
This actually has a lot of almost a lemon citrus on the end of it.
Oh, it does. It's very lemony.
Very, very lemony. It's interesting because I don't like fruit in beer. Like a lot of people will pour a beer and then they'll squeeze a lime or a lemon or something.
Right.
I don't like that at all.
Do that, yes.
To me, that a lot of times kills the beer. This has it built in, and it's kind of good, kind of refreshing in a way. What's the ABV on that bottle?
It's not that high. It's 5.9.
So this is reasonably sessionable.
Yes.
It's quite drinkable.
I do like on the very top label here, I don't know if I can show that well enough to one of the cameras or not, but on the very top of the label, it's got the superhero guy, and it says, Defend Beer.
Defend Beer.
I like it, yes. This is working for me. I like this beer a lot, actually.
After a few sips, I got to be honest, I liked my initial first couple sips, but after a few sips, I think it might be a little too lemony for me.
Well, again, this is a place where you and I kind of tread different paths.
We diverge definitely at that point.
For sure, because I love the citrusy type of thing. I'm not a fruit and beer guy, but I like when the hops have a citrusy note.
Yeah.
That makes it more sessionable for me. It also allows me to enjoy the bitter without leaving a really bitter, hoppy aftertaste on the finish. So this falls into the profile of beers that I like a great deal, IPAs that I really like.
Yeah, and it's the lemony on it isn't just lemony, it's the zest of the lemon. It has that kind of zesty bitterness to it. And again, I think, for my personal palate, I think it might be a little much, but I like the beginning of the flavor. The malt profile is real nice at the beginning.
Well, you want to defend beer, no matter what.
Defend beer. I like the idea of the beer.
The idea of the beer. The idea of a beer for Comic-Con is pretty cool, too. Yeah, I remember when,
Actually, it's really geeky.
You remember when you wouldn't
really geeky,
think of, people who would go to Comic-Con as being, even old enough to buy beer? This is how things have changed, right? When you go to the Comic-Con now, I'm telling you, there's hot chicks dressed in costume at Comic-Con. Everywhere. Everywhere. It's not like it used to be where,
everywhere?
Only,
it's not just, one or two?
No. I'm talking everywhere. And it's not like it used to be, where only the absolute nerdiest girls would be at something like the comic book convention. Now they're coming out, trying to, look like Wonder Woman and stuff, all dressed. No, I'm serious. It's an amazing thing. So I don't know how we got off on that, but
Comic-Con,
I think I'm just enjoying my Defender Ale.
Comic-Con here in Houston is held at the biggest convention center. It's just enormous. The George R. Brown is crazy.
It's also
huge.
right down by my house, so it's fun.
It's walking distance to you.
I'll go out and walk the dog and get to see lots of anime chicks and people dressed as robots.
The George R. Brown is actually your neighbor.
It is. You're listening to Smoking and Toasting. We will be back with Rocky Patel.
Rocky Patel.
Rocky Patel. It's Smoking and Toasting. All right, so Rocky, we just do a 1-minute intro. And we'll be good to go.
Awesome. So Facebook Live, we're going to do a simple 1-minute intro for the Rocky Patel segment, which, again, you can watch on YouTube as soon as we have it uploaded and ready to go, which we should have pretty soon. But we're going to do a quick intro for that, and then we'll get to segment number 5.
Rock on, babies. See, I thought we'd be done early today, but how's the upload?
Oh, it's crawling along.
Yeah. You realize you can't leave until that's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be stuck here drinking your beer.
Yeah, well.
It's the worst thing ever.
Life's tough.
Things that I have to do for this company. Oh, yeah, the other one's crawling along, too.
At least they're crawling.
They're crawling.
On the last one, did you want music?
Yeah, because it's just like a normal segment intro, so.
So I didn't put music in.
All right.
Yeah, just a little too lemony. I like everything else about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that tail end finish is a little much lemon for my palate.
Says the guy who liked the Bud Light Lime.
Well, that was a choice between flavor and not flavor. Besides, every once in a while, I get a Jones for those Jack in the Box tacos that are so bad.
Dude. Okay, so Liberty Kitchen, right around the corner over here.
That's right by B&B.
They have a on their menu, I think it's the appetizer menu, a 3 taco thing. Basically, it's like, what if a chef took the idea of the Jack in the Box taco and made it just more foodie? You know, like it plays to the same, thing
That
in
same
you that
spot.
loves those late night. I've had too much to drink. I got to get 2 tacos for 99 cents.
But you always buy 6.
Yes, I know, but
Because it's $3.
but these are a little more expensive, but they're not ridiculous, and they're delicious. I mean, you see them and go, "Oh my God, if Jack in the Box only knew," you know. All right, so here's our intro to Rocky. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, the radio program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. And
You're pretty good at that. You should get a job in radio.
Yeah. They won't have me in broadcast radio
Broadcast
anymore. You
radio
realize? Yeah, because I actually have opinions.
Oh,
Yeah.
what are you doing with those?
Yeah. Well, you're not allowed to do that.
You're supposed to have opinions. They're written down on a paper for you.
Yes, that's right. So this is a very exciting segment because we're going to be introducing a gentleman we had a chance to sit down with and talk tobacco and cigars and his rise to fame in the cigar business. And he's not only a super friendly and awesomely nice guy, but he, rolls a hell of a cigar.
Yes.
So
Super
please,
nice guy.
please enjoy from our time in Las Vegas this Smoking and Toasting interview with Mr. Rocky Patel. Smoking and Toasting, we're live at the Big Smoke in Las Vegas, where we've been coming to you all weekend, and we are thrilled to be sitting with, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most influential names in the cigar business there is, Mr. Rocky Patel. Rocky, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. Great to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
It is a real pleasure to have you on, and it's been a pleasure to be smoking your cigars for as long as we have. Take me back to when you first decided, because I know you were doing Indian tobacco, when you first decided you were going to release a cigar under the name Rocky Patel. Were you worried at all with it not being a name that sounded like it was Hispanic or from South America? That these days you wouldn't think twice about it, but back then.
Absolutely. In fact, my brother and my cousin thought I was crazy. So, what happened is after we launched our initial Indian tobacco brands in 1996, and at that time we were letting other people make our cigars, and unfortunately I'd come up with great blends, but then when I got the product from other people that were making it, they would be inconsistent. They would cheat on the curing, on the fermentation, might change the binder, wrapper, etc. So we decided to take control of our own destiny, and we finally had our own production. So all the strict quality control standards that I saw that were possible to implement in our own factory, we did. We looked and I visited every factory in Honduras, Nicaragua, Dominican. I took all the good characteristics and traits they had, and I tried to get rid of the bad ones. And finally, when I felt like I have the strictest quality control standards, that's when I was proud to put my name on it. And ironically, you know, my brother and cousin says, "Who the hell's Rocky Patel? Nobody cares about it. You know, you're not Cuban, you're not this, you're not that." And it was difficult at the beginning because, you know, everybody told me this is a business that's usually passed on from generation to generation. You have to be a Cuban descent, Latin descent. You know, you can't just be some guy that walks into the cigar industry. And I said, well, guess what? My antlers went up, and when somebody tells me I can't do something, I told them I'm going to show you. So, you know, I worked diligently, very hard, a lot of sacrificing family, friend relationships, but I was very passionate and determined, and I'm glad we did it.
Now, you mentioned quality control, and that being the reason you really wanted to kind of take things under your own name. These days, as popular as your line of cigars has become, you're producing a lot more cigars than you were back in those days. How do you keep quality control at a consistent level when you're doing as many cigars as you do?
Well, you know, that's something I'm very focused on. I always tell people don't remember the 100 good cigars they smoke, they remember the one bad one. So we really pay attention to that, and you know, regardless of the volume, we make sure that we spend a lot of time in the curing and the sorting and the fermentation. Many times we stop rolling a particular blend like Edge or Decade for 3 months, 6 months, because one leaf in the entire blend needs more time. So I'm big about spending the 2 to 4 years on fermenting the tobacco. I'm very, very big on aging the tobacco. We never use tobaccos that are at least 4 or 5 years old. So we're very determined. It's hard when you make about 20 million cigars like we do, but I promise you, not one cigar is getting rolled unless we have the same standards as the first 100 cigars we rolled.
That is awesome. Pastor,
You know, I gotta say, I'm being a little fanboy here because Rocky Patel cigars are some of the earliest cigars that I smoked when I started smoking cigars. I didn't start until I was later in my 30s, actually, and I remember all those awesome blends, the 92, the vintage series, the Decade, the 15, the 55. Yeah, I mean, all those are so good. What's coming up in the future? What do you have coming up new?
Well, we're excited to re-release the Old World Reserve. There's been a lot of demand for it. So we're excited to release that at the trade show at IPCPR in Vegas next year. And then we're working on a secret project that I can't tell you about, but it might be the greatest launch that we've ever made in our history. So we're going to see if this deal goes through, and if it does, it's going to be something quite popular and big that the entire world will recognize the name.
well, that would be a big deal because so many of your launches, every time you've done, you know, the Decade or the 55, which I just have to stop and say, by the way, 55. Everybody has their favorites. 55 is on my short desert island cigar list. Do you have a favorite in your line?
Well, you know, 55 happens to be one of my favorites. So I usually like the richer, fuller cigars. So I would say that the Decade, the new special edition, the 2006 vintage, and the 55 are now the top 4 ones in my repertoire that I keep, you know, changing around and smoking. So those 4 are my new favorites.
That's awesome. Now, I know you spend a great deal of time, as do Nish and Nimish as well, on the road, visiting with people at events like this or in cigar shops or doing. How much time do you have to blend cigars when you were as ruthlessly promoting them as you do?
Well, you know, I used to spend a lot of time on the road. I don't spend that much time on the road anymore because I'm very, very busy in Washington, D.C., fighting all the FDA regulation, lobbying, the lawsuit, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I make sure that I'm involved in every single blend that we make. I don't think there's a cigar that we've ever launched that I've not worked on the blend. And you know, the process takes 2 years. I mean, by the time you start and you're looking for the flavor profiles, and then you change one priming, you change the binder, you change a little bit of the fillers, and then you have to wait 4 months before the cigar ages, because when you smoke it, it tastes one way. After it ages 4 months, it tastes totally different. It tastes different in Honduras and Nicaragua, because you're in the mountain climate over there versus when you bring it back to Florida. So you really have to spend almost a year to 2 years reworking it, smoking it, trying it. So it's a process and work. I mean, we're already working on blends right now for 2 years from now.
Wow. Where do you think? Yeah, go ahead. He's got to take the call real quick. So let me just remind you that we're on Smoking and Toasting, and we're with Rocky Patel. We're live at the Big Smoke, and this is this is how stuff goes when you're doing these things live. I wanted to ask Rocky too about the time that you're spending in Washington. I know, which has become a bigger and bigger part of what you do. Is that what was behind your great "Socialism Stinks, Cigars Don't" campaign?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to show the government that, this is a lifestyle luxury product, something that we're very proud and passionate of. It's a product enjoyed much like a single malt scotch, a great bottle of wine. And we really are adults that want our personal freedoms, rights, and privileges. And I think we're smart enough that we don't need the government to tell us what to do. And so I came up with this logo, "Socialism Stinks, Cigars Don't," and it's absolutely meant for Obama and Hillary. So, we wanted to let them know that, we're taking a poke at you in a fun way.
My last question, I'm sure Ian's got another one, but my last question for you, where do you think the best cigar tobacco in the world is coming from right now?
Well, I absolutely think Nicaragua right now is producing some of the finest tobaccos in the world. Ironically, we have our own farms in Esteli and Condega. I think that tobacco is unparalleled in flavor and character and taste, richness. So, I just think that's special. Listen, tobacco from Jamastran Valley in Honduras is very, very good also. It's got that sweetness that you don't find. It's almost as sweet as some of the tobacco you find from the old Cuban valleys. So, I think Central America is real special.
That's awesome. Ian, anything else you want to add?
No, you guys covered it all.
Rocky, we want to thank you so much. We appreciate everything you do for the cigar industry. We also just appreciate your blends and your passion for cigars and tobacco. Thanks for spending some time with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for smoking and toasting, and love to be on your show, and good luck to you guys, and hope to catch up again.
And can't wait to find out whatever this new project is all about.
Right, I'll let you know when it comes out.
It's Rocky Patel, and we're Smoking and Toasting. Rocky, thank you so much. So welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Avenue in Houston, and in the shops at Clearworth in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. And the Fort Worth just opened up. Ian and I have not been there yet, but we are planning a road trip. We're getting ready to do it, and it's going to be very exciting. So how cool is Rocky Patel?
Man,
I mean, seriously,
that guy was super cool.
Seriously. Now, I felt like I do want to apologize. I felt like I was hogging the interview.
Well, you did, but there was a good reason. Like, we had the one mic, and the way we had it set up so quick, and I only interrupted the one time you were asking all the great questions. You're good at this. I figured I'd let you to it.
Well, I wasn't trying. So I was able to keep from telling Rocky the story of when I first met him. Dude, you may not remember this, but I met you one time. It was really cool.
That was cool.
No, but I did meet him at a cigar dinner in New Hampshire. Two Guys Smoke Shop in New Hampshire, just over the state line from Massachusetts. Used to go up there occasionally when I lived in Boston. They were doing a cigar dinner, and I wound up, and this is before Rocky Patel had ever put his name on cigars. He was running the Indian Tobacco Cigar Company, which we mentioned in the interview.
Right.
So I sat down at the table because there were like assigned seating at the cigar dinner, and I don't remember how much it cost, but you got dinner and some wine and beers, and then you got several cigars. And so I'm sitting there excited about getting my cigars or whatever. And this guy sits next to me. I'm like, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. He's like, blah, blah, blah. So what do you do? He said, oh, I'm Rocky Patel. I go, oh, you're the guy from Indian Tobacco, because I'd read about him, right? I was like, that's awesome. I love your cigars. And he goes, well, do you like those? Just wait. I'm about to release cigars under my own name. And in my brain, I thought, your name is Patel. That's not a cigar name. Like, that was what I thought at the time. But I didn't say that. I said, oh, that's awesome. And he reached in his jacket pocket and handed me the first Rocky Patel vintage. It was a vintage 1990 that I had ever seen.
And those are so good.
And I proceeded to clip it and smoke it at the table, and it blew my mind. I loved it.
Those are so good.
So that's my first memory of meeting Rocky
Now,
Patel.
you also said that there was an incident like that you saw him do at the Center Bar
Yes.
in Vegas.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Yes. So the day after the events, the day we were flying home, I was sitting actually in the Center Bar watching the football game, and Rocky and Nish and Nimish were all actually sitting in a booth behind us, and I did not go over and bother him because I didn't want to be that guy, you know. Plus, I'm still a little fanboyish. I admit it. Like I
want to go over and be like, "Hey, Rocky, remember when we talked yesterday?
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was really cool." Yeah, but interestingly enough, there were two guys who came up and just sat at the bar, and they were sitting next to each other, and they were pulling out cigars and looking at them. Obviously, they'd either come for the big smoke or something. So they were pulling out cigars, looking at them, talking to each other about cigars, and I saw Rocky get up from his seat, go over and introduce himself to the guys. And I saw them go, "Oh!" And then I saw him reach in his jacket pocket and pull out cigars. And
He's a
hand
little
to the
bit like
two
a
guys.
superhero.
He
like
is.
that.
He's like the ambassador superhero dude man
Yeah, I mean,
of,
that guy
of
is,
the cigar industry.
Like, to get it
But
across,
think
that
about
guy
it
really
if
is that nice.
But think about it if that was your job. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be just freaking awesome?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
And he does it well. And he's, as we talked about in an interview, he spends a lot of time lobbying for cigars.
Yes,
too.
and he's a perfect guy to do that. Because he's very personable, and he when he speaks it makes sense, and he's like, he's not like us. I'd be out there going, "You gotta let us have our cigars because
I want to smoke.
we really like them." And remember that time?
Cigar's good.
Yeah, cigar's good. So
Speaking of cigars good, beer good.
beer is good too, and we have one that's very interesting here to taste. This is the Lagunitas Eroica, and by the way, I was able to look a little closer, and the Eroica is an ale. You just took a whiff of the top of the bottle. What do you think?
It smells good.
Yeah, what kind of a beer smell?
This is a farmhouse ale, actually.
Oh, a farmhouse.
This
Now, I
is-
haven't had I don't do a lot of farmhouse ales, so I
Right
haven't
off
had
of the
one in a while.
website, this is a Lagunitas-ified version of Lagunitas-ified. I like that version of a traditional Flemish farmhouse ale aged in red wine oak barrels
Yeah.
and funked up with Brettanomyces yeast.
Well, I can
That
tell,
means it's going to be sour.
Yeah, I can tell the red wine right off the top on the nose. I just
Right,
poured
it's
this
a-
and took the first whiff. So
It's a golden saison sour with a nice tartness that leaves your buds quenched and wanting more.
Now, this
and
is-
then it says Prost.
this is really interesting, and props to you too. And I will tell you right off the bat, I am not always the biggest fan of farmhouse ales, but I've already taken my first sip, and I love this.
I like farmhouse ales when they don't taste like some of them have that kind of rot flavor that's
Yes,
kind of good, but not really.
but that's
too
what
much
I
of that I don't
that's
like.
what I struggle with, and I've had some.
Overripeness is
yeah,
what I've told it actually is.
That's
It's
a perfect way to
overripeness
say it.
instead of rot.
So
but
what
it's-
I'm getting here on the Eroica, though, and it's almost a shame that this is a one-hitter series because I
Oh,
like it a
that's
lot.
good.
The tartness of the sour completely keeps that rot.
But,
I
well,
can't believe we're saying rot.
Right,
but
right,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Overripeness. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of banana in this, but there's also a lot of bread, and then there's that tartness, and so it's
That
like
almost
this
like
bready
cherry tartness,
And
yes.
cherry. Yeah, I mean, it's like this is a lot of good things.
This is a
happening.
delicious beer.
Yes. And what's funny is
Very
you-
complex.
You think with that tartness that the aftertaste would linger, but it doesn't. It's actually pretty quick overall on the tongue.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, it reminds me, even though the flavor is different, the drinking experience reminds me a lot of my very favorite sour or tart beer, which is the Raspberry AF from
Which
St. Arnold.
also has that nice, delicious, quick finish.
And it
yeah.
goes away quick, but it leaves that wonderful little tang in your mouth.
And but the difference between that being a Berliner Weiss and this being the farmhouse ale is you get that more banana profile in this banana breadiness.
Now, see, if this
in
was the
this.
first farmhouse I tried, I wouldn't have the sort of mental block
be
I
like, I
have
love
against
those.
farmhouse. Yeah, I would. I'd be like,
Well, I think
love
the
me some
style.
farmhouse.
I think the style gets abused a little bit though, because, like I said, that overripeness. Some people just push so much of that flavor in there, and it just kind of kills the fun in a farmhouse ale.
Do you think? Let me ask you this question, since we have a moment here. Do you think that
Hold on, let me get my serious face on. Give me a second. It's coming.
Okay,
Wait for it.
go. Got it.
Wait, not serious enough. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep. Oh, now you're totally serious. I
See what I
hope
just
you were
did there?
watching this on Facebook Live or on YouTube, because there's no way I could describe this and do it justice. Oh, my God. Where did you get those?
Okay, go ahead. We're making faces here. You actually have to watch the video to see that.
I'm not even going to try to describe it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Back
So,
to what you were doing.
Ian, do you think that we were talking about farmhouse ales and how some of them just really are kind of tough to navigate, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that there is such a thing as a sort of an elitist attitude among some brewmasters where they're like, I'm going to make a beer that most people are not going to like, but only people that maybe fall into this certain segment of eliteness will. Do you think that any of that exists today?
I think that's the model that Dogfish Head built their company on, and it's awesome.
But see, they make awesome beers, though, so it's hard to, like... I mean, I just had... I was at Liberty Kitchen last weekend and had the Dogfish Head 90
It's great.
IPA,
It's a brilliant IPA.
and was just marveling at how good that IPA is.
It might be, in my mind, that's one of the best IPAs there is.
It's really... But the 60's good, too.
The 60's good, but the 90 really hits the spot. The 120 is ridiculously good as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good, but it's like
Harder to
also
find,
18 to 21%, depending on when they make it. We had that on a show at one point in
Yes,
time.
it was good.
But I mean, like Dogfish Head, I think is one of those no compromise companies. They make beer that they think is interesting and hope, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just put it out there and go, maybe someone likes it. I don't know.
But you're right.
So I think there's a little bit of a. You could call it elitist, or you could say, hey, we're doing this craft for us, and hopefully other people will appreciate that artistry.
Yeah,
which I think.
But you
hits
don't
the
think
mark
it's
sometimes.
I want to piss off most of the drinkers.
I think
to
that
just
sometimes
reach the
there
elites.
can be in any artist's nature there can be a backlash of I don't want to hold the customer's hand. Mm-hmm. You know, I want them to either like it or get it or don't. You know,
like you remember the classic rock, classic hits band Chicago.
Yeah.
So they did this one tour right at the height of their popularity where they played none of their hits. Like the whole tour.
They played all the Chicago
played
Transit
all the
Authority stuff.
played all the like
Love
deep
that
cuts
stuff.
and stuff.
Love
yeah,
that stuff.
which if you were like a super
South
hardcore
California
fan, you
Purples
might have been
and-
into it. But if you were the average concert goer, you're like,
What is this?
what happened to make me smile? Where's Color My World? Like, right, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
and it was just nothing. And I saw Harry Connick Jr. He had released an album of very Zydeco influenced stuff that was actually a really well done, very brilliant album. But the whole amphitheater full of people where I saw him were waiting to hear "It Had to Be You."
Right,
you know?
right.
And
You
I
say
just
tomato,
thought,
I say tomato.
if he had just mixed a couple of those in, they would have loved his Zydeco stuff. But people walked out.
The last time I saw Iron Maiden played nothing but their newest stuff.
Oh, see, that's a mistake.
And see, to me, I love that though.
Yeah.
I have the albums. I've heard all that. I have the live albums. I've heard all of that.
Okay, you can laugh at me if you want, but I went to see once in a casino in Mississippi the Little River Band.
Awesome.
And they came out and they played, you know, the hits that you would expect. And about midway through the set, the lead singer says, the band has an announcement to make. Tonight, we will not be playing any new songs. And they started, like, I don't know, reminiscing, one of their biggest hits, right? And he goes, we don't know any new songs. And the audience went, yay! It was a brilliant moment.
Well, I understand going and seeing one of your favorite bands and wanting to hear some of the old stuff, but at the same time, I love to hear a band evolve. Like,
I agree. I like a mix.
I want to hear the new stuff that I haven't heard before. Clutch does that. A lot of times they'll play nothing but the
Clutch
newest
is a
stuff.
great live band.
I got
though.
tickets to the next Clutch show, which is coming up in just a couple weeks.
About that. By the way, we're almost out of show. I want to thank Rocky Patel, and I also want to thank Austin Moore of Rocky Patel's
Who helped hook that
company.
all up, yeah.
Yes, and Nish Patel, who also was very instrumental in helping the whole thing happen. You guys are big fans and supporters of the show, and we appreciate you very much. We will be back. We have so much to do. We have a Christmas ale show coming up. We're going to be live at B&B again in just like minutes, practically. There's so much going on, and I'm so excited about it. And 2018 is going to be the biggest year yet for the Smokin' and Toastin' show. Thank you guys for taking the journey with us. Show number 67 has been fun. And can I see those glasses just one more time?
One more time?
Yeah,
okay,
just one
for
more
the
time.
Facebook Live, folks. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, here we go.
Here goes. There it is.
And cheers.
Cheers.
I can't take you seriously.
This is Radio Clash on Pirate Satellite, orbiting your living